Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're tuning into another episode of 20 Tim Minutes. I am your host, Tim McCarthy. Today, we have on a dedicated, energetic, and compassionate health coach and mental health podcast with 10 plus years of extensive experience in psychology and health education. He is also the host of the Mental Health Talks with JD, which is conversations about self-investment and mental health without any gimmicks. JD Mergolo, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you, Tim?
Good, thanks. Good, thanks. Me and JD have been connected on Twitter, like most of my friends on the podcast game, and me and him are pretty much the top dogs on that Good Pods app, huh?
It's entertaining, but it's also very I don't know if scary is the right word, but it's almost like welcoming. Like when you see somebody else, it's like, oh, we're having this conversation. Great, because I think a lot of people like to mention it, but it's like I don't want to be there sometimes. It's like, okay, somebody else
Yeah, right.
talk too. But then it's I think some people have the frame of mind that it's like, oh, I'm like, and most genres I think can get away with that, but I don't feel like you can with this one. But it's like you want somebody else to talk, but it's like you also want to be like, wait a minute, like what are you saying that I'm not? And it's like, wait a minute, it's not this one. You can do that with a movie review, but
Yeah,
it's the same one.
it,
But yeah, um,
well, it makes it good for us because I know more people should be their shows should come up more, but it's kind of funny. It's like our shows are still doing well enough that we're up there, but yeah, you got to
yeah.
work your way down. So once they start getting sick of me, then I'll start going down once in a while. But yeah, it's great too because like I feel like early in the game for podcasting it was just under like fitness. And now it's like we have like our own like
It
designated
is.
category, which is like you can click mental health or find it. So that was like a big step in the direction because I know like years ago that wasn't really like a thing that stood out when you were Googling for just any podcast.
It was, yeah. I mean, and you see them here and there. Unfortunately, it ends up like on the bigger realm of things. Not necessarily on the independent realm. And just like anything else, at least from my perspective of health and fitness, you're right. I mean, it's not necessarily the conversation you want to have today. It's the conversation you want to have when shit's hit the fan.
Yeah.
And then, just like anything else that goes along with that, meditations and mindfulness and yogas and all that, it's like, that's one conversation. And then there's the eat your kale smoothies and, pump some iron. And it's like, they're like two separate entities. And it's like, one doesn't necessarily agree with the other, but it's like, wait a minute. So I don't know what it takes to, you don't want it to be a flashy conversation. I mean, I always joke that I'm fully aware that it's not.
Yeah.
But then some people are great about doing that. And I don't know if that works either. You see it, as you doom scroll through social media, it's like, the tag comes up for mental health matters because someone's posting a half naked picture eating a pizza. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, I'm sure you feel great about yourself and that's what you're saying, but it's like, you don't want it to be necessarily flashy. I was on the way here or way back home from dropping my son off at grandma's. There's a neighborhood that she lives in. There's a sign that says Black Lives Matter, and it's the same writing, same anything as the one with the black background with the white writing, right? Well, the sign trips me up every time and it's been there for at least a year. The background is turquoise and the lettering is black. The background is turquoise because their door is turquoise, and so it matches their door. And I know that for sure. And I'm like, and so I can equate that to anything with mental health matters as well. It's like it's become this trend, for lack of a better word, right? And it's like, do you want that to be the trend, or is it because that's where it stops? If you look at anything else trend wise, that's where it stops. And it's like with that, things like Black Lives Matter, equal rights, all those things, like that's step number one. But then how many of those things keep going on with the conversation that should happen? So yeah, so it's good to see. It's good to see two males too. I think that's also very unique, very helpful. I saw someone the other day, like ask the question, like should men or do men cry? And I don't usually reply to people anywhere unless I actually know you. But I immediately was like, yes, they do, and they should. So I don't know why you were saying that, but it's like, so it's good to see that too. And I think that probably, catches a lot of our audience for that reason. It's like, wait a minute, you shouldn't be talking about this. Why are you not reviewing games? And
And
so it's nice.
yeah, and to back up a little bit, it is like people hop on like the quote unquote bandwagon, I would say. It's like, yeah, we are trying to
Yeah.
like bring awareness, but then like these kids are like whoever just they don't get it and it's like a lack of education. They
No.
just see it without diving deep in it. So like
Yeah.
yeah, you do see like those fads and like what you were saying with that blue sign. It's like people always there's always somebody that kind of ruins it in a way and they're not really helping out the cause.
Yeah.
They're doing it for all the wrong reasons. So it's like that's another battle that we have to deal
That's the
with.
next step. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that's a totally different thing. It's like we need to help these people, but then we have to help the uneducated people. So
Yeah.
it's like a it's even more mental health straining because you're
Yeah.
like, how
It's
don't you get
tougher.
this? Yeah,
It's
and,
tougher, and it pops up in various things. I just read an article yesterday about the young kid that is charged with the mass shooting there, the most recent one. And I almost it almost broke my heart. I mean, I actually used those words when it first came, and I don't know if you read like the things that he said and the things that like kind of were brought to the attention of school officials altogether. And I'm like, there's your sign, and there's the words, and who knows like what other conversations, and I'm not going to get into that, like what other
yeah,
things they did or didn't see. And I mean, I know how tough that's got to be to I didn't see that ever to that extreme teaching, but there were things that you saw, and it's like this poor kid's going to get labeled as one thing, and he's not even there. And then lo and behold, they have an article yesterday, they're trying to fight for the fact that he's in a adult prison and he should be in a juvenile one. And the kid, like completely unaware, was like, I just, can I not just go back to school? This doesn't have the ability. And I'm like, there's why mental health matters. Like it's not so that you can enjoy a day at the spa and not have as much anxiety. It's that it's to bring better like education, like you said, and awareness to I mean, who knows that's going to prevent it? I don't know, but
yeah,
there's where it comes. I mean, you listen to every true crime podcast. Like some are great, but some are just quick to just go, well, lo and behold, they were mentally deranged. And it's like, okay, cool. That's why I was listening. I just wanted to make sure that that's what people like that do. And it's not. I mean, so there's where the education has to come in. And that's why it's so challenging, because it's like, it's attached to something else, right? I mean, this example is attached to gun rights, and it's like it overshadows the fact that here's somebody who's 15 and he's telling people, he actually asked, he's like, what, I don't forget what it was, like like heard, like he wrote down, like he heard voices and I see blood everywhere, somebody help me, somebody help me, you
yeah,
know and that's the tragic end of it. And then you look at musicians, actors, all these people that left early, and then you go back and you like look at the lyrics in the song. They said it to you, and it's like you don't want it to get to those moments. So it's a tough battle being in this genre,
yeah.
and this conversation altogether.
Warning signs are tough because even like with me, when people are like, "Is everything all right?" I would just put on that mask. So it's like it's tough. It's like
Mhm.
you do see the signs, but do you push for somebody to get the information and where you don't know how
No,
they're going to react? So again, it's not easy to talk about this subject, and
no,
we both tackle it different ways, which I think is great because everyone's different in regarding to it. Some people can't talk about
absolutely
it. Some people can. Like you said, like a lot of males don't talk about mental health. I didn't realize that until I started this podcast. I'm like,
no,
can I get any men on my show to talk about it?
no,
Um,
no.
it's the whole like man up weakness thing is like 100% played out, obviously, and
Yeah,
you can be tough and vulnerable at the same time because
you absolutely can.
to
You
get
know,
yourself and put yourself out there is the probably one of the hardest things you can do.
and the most necessary and strongest things at the same time. We forget to do that. I mean, we from day one, we have labels that we stick on kids, and I mean, and they have different connotations. Wife and I were talking about that the other day, that you call someone a mama's boy, and that's, I
Yeah.
mean, neither one of the phrases are great in my opinion, but a mama's boy and a daddy's girl. But you look at the two phrases from day one, if you were saying that, the girl that's almost supportive and caring, and it's like it's acceptable to have that support, where it's like you call someone a mama's boy, and it's like it should have the same support and meaning. But I mean, both are terrible. Both are setting you up for one-sided conversations with just one member of your family. But we do it from day one with how we show affection, and how if that's okay. I have no problem kissing my 14-month-old lips, and if he does it when he's 7, that's great too. I mean, but right. I mean, it's a tough conversation. And I think that's what makes it important. It also, is probably why people, burn out and peter out altogether. Cause it's like, I don't know what to do here. I wore all the shirts, I said all the things. And really the next step is just to keep talking. And eventually you get to a point that it's like, okay, it is okay to share that. And hey, they feel that too. And that's okay. So yeah.
It's good to get it out and find out that other people think the same
Yeah.
way and feel the same way. Which is a great feeling because people come out of the woodwork. They're like, "Thank you for saying it." And it's not like
Yeah.
they're weak to not go out with it. It's like, again, it's like just very scary to do. But a support system is huge behind
Yeah.
mental health. There's so many different angles at this, and it's crazy. So I always wonder too. It's like everything's like a generational thing, and it's like
Hmm.
I wonder how like the next generation or the second generation coming up is going to handle like mental health. Is it going to be a lot better? Which I personally think it is, because it is going into that right direction, because we're in that territory now that people are talking about it, more people are talking about it, which is great. But now, like we said, it's coming to the education part, and
Yeah.
using it for evil in a way.
Yeah.
I would put. But yeah, I feel like people like you is what we need, and I love what you're doing, obviously. So I also see that you're an ACE certified health coach and personal
Yeah.
trainer, as well as the founder of Veritas Fit, which is to aim building a wellness community where individuals can feel supported and find sustainable, I can say that word, resources as they try to
Yeah.
lead healthier
You want some?
lives.
You want my coffee?
Yeah. Now, first off, because like I don't know if that's an acronym or what, but what does ACE stand for? And then tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
Veritas
so
Fit.
that's the American Council for Exercise, and it's one of the highest ranked. I mean, behind just from personal trainer standpoint, and that's where I started. Wife and I were both teachers, both Montessori teachers. I don't know if you're familiar with Montessori philosophy when it comes to education, but 100-year-old plus educational philosophy. It's how I was taught. It's what I taught. It's what my mom still teaches, slash is the administrator of. But to sum it up, it's like it's teaching kids life skills from day one. And really jokingly, we used to always say that the academics come second, because really, so on my level, middle school level, just to use it as an example, if you can't find your assignments, if you can't find your books, if you can't organize your thoughts and things of that nature, it doesn't matter how smart you are, book wise, you're not going to succeed. So it's a lot of hands-on learning. Even to the point of our 14-month-old, I mean, they're learning spatial awareness and cleaning up and all those kind of things. So we did that for years, and both of us looked at each other that teaching is, do we see each other standing in front of a classroom for the rest of our lives? And neither one of us could say yes. Different reasons. Mine really just the culture of a school. When it comes to parents and the politics, it's not what I signed up for. And I knew right away that I don't want to lose the passion for what I have with it. Um, and so what else do I want to do? What else fits in that category? And I have a psychology degree, and I've kind of used it as a teacher. I just knew I wouldn't want to sit in front of the couch. I'll take that problem home with me every day. So I started with personal training, and I just, it's something health wise was important. And maybe a year or two after I got that, and I was, worked in, small clubs here and there, training people, but it didn't feel right. And I knew as I was, was growing and starting this business, it still didn't feel right. I didn't want to be, I'm not the kind of person that's going to go to the gym and take a selfies or, or film me like lifting weights. I don't care how well I do. Probably look terrible. I'm not the one you want to see, but that's what was flashy, and that's what caught on. And I'm like, I can't do that and feel good about growing a business doing that. Like, I don't want to tell you how to work out. I don't care what you eat. That eating that cheeseburger every day is not your good choice. And so Health coaching is kind of a new category. The easiest way to explain it's your intermediary between your physician, who just told you probably something along the lines of you need to lose weight or change your diet or sleep better or anything like that, but they can't do anything. That's not their scope of practice. And then you've got the other end is your dietitian, so the other medical end of it. They maybe told you that you have to eat like this and do this, but they don't have a scope of practice to tell you the extreme medical things that you're going to have a heart attack or you're at risk for cancer or anything like that. So the health coach is that conversation in between. She's the person that's putting that into place and kind of helping to clear the fog when it came to that. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. This makes sense for me because I knew right away. I mean, I could probably make a lot more money than I'm making now if I was selling programs and diet programs and things of that nature. But never failed. Even the person that you thought was in the right path altogether, the next day they'd wake up. You wake up and you get a message and like, well, this recipe calls for tomatoes, and I don't really like tomatoes. Do you have an alternative? I'm like, do you know how much time I spent just doing that? Like, don't eat the tomato. Like, that's fine, Or they'll come back and they're like, well, you said like, like work out like this and do this exercise. But I don't really like push-ups. So I looked up this program and they said if I do 50,000 sit-ups in a day, that's the same thing, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So it's like this isn't, and that's what people are going to do. And I'm like, why are people doing that? And so this fit, and more importantly, being a holistic health coach means that's mind, body, and spirit all together. And when I put my head on the bed at night, I sleep better because I know that I had a better conversation with you, and you can find whatever program diet after that. At least what I realized right away is that people's minds were in the wrong spot, and there's a reason why you heard what I said, but you also looked up what else can you do, and it's like, wait a minute, you just spent a lot of money to have this conversation with me, and you just spent more money just
Yeah.
for have someone find something that didn't have tomatoes and allowed you to eat oranges all day. No. So it made more sense. And so, so you have to rethink, you have to regroup and be okay with that. And so it fits, under the psychology. It's like teaching all over again, just in a different capacity. And adults are the same as adolescents. Adolescents are the same as toddlers. I'm learning, just different understandings of their emotions. My son, for example, if he needs to tell you something or he doesn't like something, he's just going to cry and he's going to be upset. An adolescent isn't necessarily going to cry or be upset, but they have an own. They're now aware of what that emotion is. They don't know what it means. Here
Right.
you are as an adult. We know what it is. We know what it means. We don't know what to do with it. So here I stand trying to help you figure out what to do with it, and for better for worse. So
You took
just kind of how it all branched together, I guess.
you took that teaching sword and brought it over to something that is
Yeah.
also beneficial. Now, where does the name stem from, and how long you been doing this?
So I've been running this for about 5 years, and I would tell you that probably in the last year and a half is when it all just kind of clicked and came together. I have a hugely supportive family, wife, parents, mom that asked me like, continually. So wait, that's great, but how does that make money?
Yeah.
It's a different generation, different understanding, but it's the same thing with teaching. And so go back a little bit. So my mom, who's been teaching for about 30 plus years, she was the lead teacher in the classroom when I started teaching, and I swore I would never teach. And so about 3 years that was the case, and then I became the lead of the classroom, but she became the head of the school. But she told me from day one that you have a year, and in that year you figure out whether this is really what you want to do. But it's going to take about 5 years before it really comes to a head and makes it worth it. And absolutely right. I knew within that year that teaching was what I wanted to do. I knew within a year that owning my own business and this field was what I wanted to do. 5 years teaching is when I got my master's. It's when I went for a Montessori certification and met my wife. And here I am 5 years with this, and it all kind of makes sense that the conversations are there now, and I feel like what I'm saying actually makes sense, and I believe it rather than searching. Okay, what time am I supposed to say that? And what hashtag am I supposed to use? No, this is how I'm feeling right now. You swallow that too. And I promise you it'll be good. So yeah, so it's been about 5 years doing this.
And people can read that really well. If you buy into
They
it, they're going to
can,
buy into it.
they
So
can.
that's just 101. You got to be passionate, and you are passionate about it. Now, what does it stand for?
Veritas?
Yep.
So Veritas is Latin for truth. Um, and it's so it's tattooed on my side. The other end of it is on the other side of my body. You don't need to do a striptease here, but it's covered somewhere. Quietus is justice, and those are two things that, no matter what time period, no matter what's going on, are immensely important when it comes to values. Right up there with grace and compassion. And so it made sense as far as what I was trying to share. This wasn't like, lean body express, or like, or kale smoothie plus.
Right.
It wasn't just that. There was more to it, and it becomes it feels like it makes more and more sense as I go on, that there is, if you just say it without the Latin word, it's truth fit. And truth fit is anything. That's your mind, that's your body, that's your soul, if you believe in a soul. And so it's one of my important values, as a human being, as a husband, as a father, as a son. And it naturally fit into, using the word fit right with it, naturally, is what I do. And it rings true on both ends of it, whether I'm having a conversation on the podcast, or I'm having a conversation with the client. No matter what I'm saying, whether that's, how are you feeling with your movements, or how did you feel, mentally when you woke up today? Did you meditate? It both, it makes sense. There's a truth within us, and that's what I realized people weren't trying to pay attention to. They were searching for the next thing. Oh, this person's having a 30-day challenge, do 100 sit-ups every day. It's
Yeah.
great. Why did you need to look for that though? Oh, can I get back to you? Yeah, you certainly can. I'll be right here. So yeah,
Fit in the truth. That's what it is.
fit in
Yeah,
the
fit
truth.
in the truth, baby. I
Yeah.
like it. Um, Now let's talk about the podcast real quick.
Yeah.
Mental Health Talks with JD. How's that been for you? When did that start? And talk a little bit about the show.
Yeah. So it took a while, and I've been a listener to podcasts for years, and I knew I'm a storyteller, for better for worse. My dad likes to remind me, as I'm like rambling on at a lunch or whatever. Is there a point to this story? Yes. Hold on, but I need to tell you about the burning bush that was on the path too. When I was getting to the story. So I knew that I wanted to start a podcast. I just didn't know what for, and what it was going to be. And so I never liked starting something just because somebody else did, or because it sounds like a cool idea. My wife makes sure that I stay realistic. If you ever need somebody to run an idea past and see if it's crazy or stupid or great, just ask her, because most of the time I'll start thinking it and I'm like, she's going to think I'm an idiot. So I'm not going to do this. So she grounded me with it too. That so what? And with the scrunch in her face too. Like, so what are you going to do? I don't know, but one day I'm going to do a podcast. I'll figure it out. And then it just kind of hit. It's just, I have to sit here, and it started right when we couldn't go, when you couldn't meet with clients, you couldn't, and I have these kind of, virtual conversations. Wasn't always. So I was like sitting there, and I was like, well, this is the time to do it. And it kind of just branched. It was the same kind of voice that it started off with. Here's 6 tips for this. Here's the best way to lift weights for this. Here's the best type of, and it was like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel natural either. And there was bits and pieces. And as I was talking of the mental part of it, I'm like, no, this doesn't work. So about, halfway through it is when I just, not necessarily pulled the plug, but looked at it and went, I don't care who's listening for what they're listening for right now. This is what I'm changing. And rather than, redoing everything, changing names, changing all that, like, okay, this still works. We're still having this conversation. And I think it's valuable to do. I think a lot of people just kind of quit and erase. And it's like, okay, how can you reframe this? So I mean, I've changed logos from the beginning. I've changed color schemes. I've changed, covers for podcasts, all that. And it's an essence. It's like growing in yourself. And then if the people that really believe and could see that message from day one, even though you couldn't, they'll stick around. And I mean, I'm certainly not, popular or anybody that necessarily wants to listen all the time, but I can feel that there's definitely a momentum building with it. It's because, like you said, you feel it, and yeah, it should be 101. But I think they bypass that when they try and tell you how to grow anything, right? They just want to tell you how to 10x your growth or whatever buzzword it's going. Like, no, 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 no. Do you know why you're doing what you're doing? Well, no, but that picture was cool that I took. Did you see that? I didn't have a shirt on and I was eating the pizza and it looked like it was going through my. No, no. You don't know why you're doing it. It's never going to work, or it may work for a second. So yeah, it just kind of naturally flowed, and I wasn't planning on doing seasons, and then I just kind of came to this one. I was like, this was kind of a beautiful end, and there's a lot of things that are still coming, and a lot of things I did, and I'm like, just pause. You don't have to tell anybody that like that you didn't really stop, that you're still recording, and you're halfway recorded through the next year. But you could pause and let people kind of soak it in and go, okay, this guy might have something to say. Let's listen for the next time. So yeah, it's kind of fun, and then you meet people like you with it, and that honestly hasn't happened as much as it should.
Yeah.
You watch that with people too. It's like, hey, I meet all these people doing this with my business, and I'm like, now I'd love to meet people, but I'm not. I don't really like talking to people altogether. I have a reason why I'm going there, and I have a reason why I'm shopping there or saying something.
Yep. A to B.
I like to have those, but right. But I mean, anybody who knows me will tell you that I'll talk to anybody, out in public. If you're wearing a hat. The other day we were at the local coffee shop. So my wife went to UConn, rode to UConn. It's where she grew up. And I don't really care where you went to school, but the guy at the coffee shop was wearing the hat. And I just really wanted my coffee to get out. My dog and my wife, my son were out there. Hey man, did you go to UConn? And it just opened up Pandora's box. And I walked out and my wife was like, what took you so long? I'm like, guy was wearing a UConn hat. Turns out he doesn't go to UConn. He just liked it, which is annoying as hell. But it happens a lot. But it's like, but you forget to do that. And so, I like having coverage. So sometimes I'm talking to myself on the show, but it's opened up a lot of these doors, that, and even though it's stuck on a phone doing it, I'd rather be doing it in person. It's still a conversation. So you can feel that the right things are happening because people are saying things in return that, hey, I listened to this and it was like the right time. And man, I was frustrated at this, and I didn't know that you felt that way too. And it's like, okay, this is the right way now. I feel it. Hey, mom, I'm going to make money soon. Watch,
Yeah. And that's like a good life lesson too. What we were saying earlier about like rebranding yourself, not throwing it all away, like fixing it, finding the puzzle pieces, and putting them back together in a different way. Like it doesn't just because the instructions weren't working, make up your own thing. It's like Legos. You just make your own little.
You can make
design.
Your own thing. Build what it had there in the first place. If you don't like looking at that ship anymore or whatever it is you just built, take it apart. We did that for years, my brother and I. But no, I validated. I don't know if you've ever read anything by Adam Grant, but his most recent book is called Think Again, and it talks about bigger companies that have done it and what value was taken away, but just on a human level that we don't rethink. We just want to knock the building down and build it better. We want to take a look at an educational philosophy, a religion, a political idea, whatever, and go, I don't like that. Well, let me just change it and do this instead. Well, hold on. That still worked to some degree. Maybe you didn't like all of it, but what can we do? What can we do to reface it? Right. I hate to use Facebook as an example, but we're missing the fact that that's what they did. He just looked at it and went, you know what? This is what I believe in, and rearranged the whole thing. Just said, you know what? Gonna knock everything out. This is what it's called now. Google did it too. They were like, we're Google, but actually, that's one thing we do. We're gonna call ourselves Alphabet, and this is what Alphabet does. And you didn't pay attention to the fact that they just uprooted everything they did, and hope to God that everybody stuck. And look what happened. They do, because they believed in it. And you have to believe in it too.
Exactly, exactly. Now let's wrap up a little bit, man. And just one
Yeah.
more thing about the whole mental health. Like, was there a specific incident or anything that you were like, you know what, I really want to focus on mental health, and it means a lot to me that I
Um,
want to do this. Was there any turning
mm,
point that was like, boom?
yeah. And it wasn't. I mean, it was one of those like slow dimmer bulbs, probably not just an aha. Um, I've seen it, within my own family, but just within myself in the past 5 years. When I left teaching, it was on my own accord, but it was also, like I said, I mean, it was just it was a bureaucratic mess, and parents that just lost the vision of what what the kids were there for. Um, and it just really made you think about the fact that, like, I'm a terrible person. Maybe I wasn't a good teacher. Wait, maybe they, and it wasn't that. And so I've spent past several years just kind of wrestling with finding my own voice again. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You have no problem telling people how you feel in your own circle. That's empowering. But do it yourself. Do it to others. So it was a kind of a slow bulb, and like it'll take forever for me to find myself, and that's great. Um, so it probably hit me when it was like the darkest time of my life, and I, just like you said earlier, I'm all right. I'm okay. Are you? No. And
Yeah,
if you're really being honest with yourself, no, you're not. And that doesn't mean that you're super depressed or that life sucks. It just means that you're not okay. And okay, well, what do we do? Um, and it's not going to happen overnight. And so a lot of these episodes are cathartic for me because it's things that I'm saying that either I've experienced or somebody personally to me has experienced, but it's also like I know that I'm letting somebody else know as well that, hey, that super weird thing that I'm talking about that doesn't sound like anybody else has, I do have it, and it's like, okay, I'm validated now. So one of the slow dim, we'll call it a slow dim bulb, one of those smart bulbs that you can change with your phone, right?
yeah,
Um,
up and
it's
down.
not bright. It's not bright yet. We didn't get it to like, full on dance mode with the bulb, but it's coming.
Yeah, I like it. Now, I usually ask everybody this. Now,
Yeah.
what would your theme song be? Like, think JD walks out to an arena and there's a song that plays, like
Oof.
a very empowering song for you, personal song. What would it be?
Oh man, music's a tough one. It's one. It takes up one whole arm. It actually takes up part of a leg. I have a soldier on the bottom of my leg. We do a whole episode about tattoos. I guess I've mentioned them enough here. I have a soldier who's holding a guitar, and I can tell every time and times I get this. Hey man, were you in the? Oh, that's a guitar. The music is my weapon. So it's it's a tough question. I think about theme songs a lot. So if it had to be one of those arena like fireworks, holy cow, JD just walked in.
Yep.
That would have to be Remember the Name, but Fort Miners version, not Ed Sheeran's with Eminem and 50 Cent, which I forgot about until you asked. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to say that, and someone's going to go, what?
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic song. It's absolutely beautiful, but the lyrics in that one, I mean, the energy behind it, of course, but it speaks to a person that knows their value, but at the same time doesn't need that negative attention of the that leads to overconfidence and egotism. It's hey, I've got something to say, and I don't know why you're paying attention. Why you think I'm super cool, but I at least believe in what I have to say, and you'll remember who I am. And it serves a different purpose now as a father that I want my name to remember, but I want him to remember, and any other kids we may or may not have. I want them to remember me for the things that I shared with the world. Because it's what we say that you die when your name is last mentioned, and I hope that it lasts for a while after that. If it was like a slow introduction onto a stage that I'm doing a TED talk, though, that would be Shadow Days by John Mayer. Um, it's the same reason. It speaks of a broken man that had some tough times and some tough days, but shadow days are over. And so I'm empowering songs are can reach either
Oh
one,
yeah.
but there's your two different scenarios. However you want me to walk out,
I like it.
fire explosions or
Or
soft
TED
mellow
Talk.
music, right? So yeah, good
JD.
question though. Thanks for asking.
Oh yeah, music is fantastic. I love it. So powerful. Now, JD, what are three things that you are grateful for today?
Ah, So first and foremost, my son and his health, but followed probably right next to him is my wife, that I'm grateful for. I mean, it's through the darkest days to now. She doesn't waver, and it's because of her unwavering that I'm allowed to do what I'm doing, sitting here talking to someone like you, and because our son exists. I'm grateful for the family. So best in general, because I have, like I said, parents and that have been there from day one, and a brother from day one. My health, but not necessarily my health in terms of the fact that how I eat, how I exercise, all that, but the fact that I'm able to wake up every day. I like I said, my wife works with cancer patients every day, and you see kids, they're my age, 40 and younger, with things that can be changed and reversed and cured, but things that can't. And you realize how grateful for you are that I haven't made great choices altogether. I mean, if I look back, when I was younger, I probably had a Mountain Dew every day, and that'll probably bite me in the butt. But overall, I'm here because of my health. But I'm grateful for community as well. It's probably my last one. Like I said, I mean, it allows me to have the opportunity to meet people like you, an opportunity to share the conversations that I have and connect on something that I don't think people that are kind of too big for their own pants get to do. They may see the tweet at them, but I think they forget that that's how you got here, was because of somebody that listened to you just once and went, damn, that was amazing what you just said. And they don't get to realize that. And so I'm grateful for the fact that I get to hear those things and I get to appreciate them. I'll be, that's what we talked about the other day, as far as like the follow and follow back. I'm like the best person you want to do that to, because I want to talk and connect with anybody. And I can't not, like, if I had 20 notifications that was somebody like, we're trying to talk to me, that gives me anxiety, because I know that I actually want to talk to you back.
Right.
And so I'm grateful for that. So yeah.
Love it. Now, before we go and say goodbye, where can everyone find information about JD Health Talks, Veritas? Where can they go?
Yeah, I mean, it's all under one umbrella. So rather than having to chase me around, it's veritasfit.com. You'll find the podcast there if you want to work one-on-one with me there. If you want to just drop in and say hi on Twitter and Instagram, Discord community, it's all under that one umbrella. So veritasfit.com is where you can drop in, say hello. I always like saying hello.
JD, thank you so much for taking the time with me to chat with me. Make sure that you guys go and say hi to JD, all right? Great guy. Obviously, this is a fantastic interview. I appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much, my man.
Thank you, Tim.
Have a good one.
You too, bud.
Round one, fight.
Rock, paper, scissors, 2 out of 3. It's on your call, all right?
On my call? Okay.
Yeah, you call it. My eyes are going to stay closed. You got to keep your hands up to the screen, though.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Wait, hold on. You do rock, paper, scissors, then just shoot on the scissors?
Yeah.
Oh, you're crazy, but you won. I was gonna
think in the moment. I don't want to give you another second.
I know. So you're up 1-0 right now. You're on 1-0. All right. All right.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Ooh, 1-1. 1-1.
Here goes.
All right.
Ready? Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, you lose.
Went back with the paper. Went back with the paper. Oh my God. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.